Kelly with Pins and Needles Kits, and I am really excited today for the project that we're going to be working on. It is the All Aboard Train Case by Byannie, Patterns by Annie. We used All Stars by Tula Pink and Roaring 20s by Snow Leopard. Both of those are by Free Spirit Fabrics, and they just turned out so cute. This train case is adorable. This is the medium size, and it has pockets inside of it, and it's all has bias binding, so all the inside is finished. It's just a really, really cute project. So let's get started. When you open up the pattern, there is a page of different pieces that you'll have to cut and a checklist right here so that you know exactly what you're cutting. You have 3 different sizes, and we're going to be making the medium size. There's also a page about general instructions, and so I really recommend reading this. It has what you need to know about making this train case, about quilting, about making bias strips. Also, there is a page that has labels, labels for the large, small, medium train case. And then, so what I did is I made a copy of this page and I cut out all the different labels for the pieces that I was cutting, so that as I cut things, I then put the label on the different pieces. And so it just makes it a lot easier to keep up with what you're cutting out. And as you've cut it out, you know what you have so that you don't have to go back and measure it as you go along. Also, she has you quilting the outer fabrics. And so what you do is you cut out your outer fabric, the bosal or soft and stable, and a lining. And then you're going to put those together and quilt this piece, and then you will be cutting a couple of pieces out of this particular piece. Then you also cut out a longer section, and that one is the front fabric, the bosal, and the lining. So you'll quilt that and then cut the pieces out of that. So I like how very organized her patterns are, and it makes a huge difference when you're putting together a bag of this sort so that you know exactly what you have. So now I've done my quilting, and what I did was I took my walking foot and I put a guide in it, and I decided how far apart I wanted my stitches, and I just did channel quilting and did that all the way across each of these pieces. So now I'll cut out the additional pattern pieces from these and get started on making the rest of the bag. So now I've cut out all my quilted pieces, and then I sewed about 1/8 of an inch away all the way around all of the pieces to seal the edges, and I'm going to set all those aside. If you look at the pattern that we're using, I'm using Tula Pink All Stars, and this particular one is a directional print. So that means that the animals all are going in the same direction. So you want to make sure that when you're putting this bag together, for instance, this is the sides, you want to make sure that the raccoons are going the proper way. You don't want everything mix and match. Once you've done that, the next thing you're going to do is your zipper pull ties. And so you have this one piece, you fold it in half. Let me do this like so, and press it in half, and then you're going to open it up and you're going to fold the edges into the center and fold it over. And so once you do that, then you just take it to the machine and you sew, you sew it straight down and set those aside as well. So next we are going to bind the mesh pockets. So we have our 2 pockets cut out, and we have our elastic binding. And so this is a great binding that Byannie sells. It's stretchy. One side is shiny, the other side is a matte, and it has this great little crease in the center so that you can fold it over and do your pockets. So what you want to do is you want to lay this across down with the matte side up. You're going to line up the top edge of the pocket with that center, and then you're going to fold this over, pin it or clip it with Wonder Clips, and then sew. And so I have one done here so that you can see, and what's nice about it is it's stretchy, so when you're using your little travel bag, you'll be able to put extra things in the pockets. Next is the handle. We take this piece, it's 5 by 11. We're going to fold it in half, wrong sides together, and press it. We're going to open it back up, fold the raw edges to the center, press again, fold it, and press it. Once we've done that, we're going to open it back up, open one side of it. We're going to slip the handle in here. You're going to center it. So you're going to have a little bit of raw fabric on each end that doesn't have the stabilizer in it. Fold that back over and then fold it over and clip it and pin it in place. Next, we're going to sew about 1/8 of an inch all the way around the handle. Once you've sewn all the way around the handle, you're going to take the top piece and you're going to mark 2 7/8 inches from the top edge. So I used a piece of chalk and marked here. You're then going to line up one edge of the handle and the raw edges there, and then your handle is actually a little bit longer than what you need, and so then you're going to take this and pull that up so that the raw edges meet. The edge here aligns with the chalk. So this way you have extra handle for when you pick up your train case. Then we're going to base this down on each side. Next, we're going to mark 1 inch over from the edge and then 2 inches over from the edge. Once you've done that, you're going to sew using this, following the same lines as before. So across the side, across here, and then down this side. Next, you're going to start here and stitch on the diagonal to this corner, go across here and stitch on the diagonal to this corner. That really reinforces the handle so that it will hold while you're using it. Now we're going to work on the bottom stabilizer sleeve. So what we do is we're going to finish off the short raw edges. So you're going to fold this under 1/2 inch and press it, and then you're going to fold it in 1/4 inch and back over like that. And then you will top stitch the edges of each end. All right, then we're going to take the larger mesh pocket and we're going to attach it to the top of the case. So I have it clipped, and then I'm going to go and sew all the way around these 3 edges. Do not sew this edge, of course, because that's where you want to put things. Now we need to round all the corners, so you're going to take I'm using a large spool of thread, and you want about a 2.5 inch diameter on the bottom, and we're going to line this up on the edges of the corners, and I'm going to mark around here on each corner and then cut those edges off. And then once I've cut them off, I'm going to go back and top stitch right along the edges so that everything is sewn together nice and neat. You also are going to do this on the bottom of the case as well. The small pocket is going to go on the back side piece, and remember I talked to you about directional print, so I want to make sure that the raccoon is at the top of the side pieces, and so you want to make sure that you put the pocket in the appropriate spot so that you don't have an upside down raccoon or whatever your print may be. So I pin this here and I'm going to stitch around the edges. So our next step is to attach the zipper to the side piece. So you take the zipper, put it right sides together with the top of the side piece, and you want to make sure that you have a zipper long enough to go all the way across and have some left on each end. And so we're going to go and put our zipper foot on the machine and sew this right sides together. Once you've sewn the zipper on, you're then going to turn this down so that you are going to sew the edge of the zipper tape to the quilting, and when you do that, it's going to give you a nice top stitch on the other side. Now that we have the zipper sewn to the bottom of the side piece, we're going to add the top of the side piece. And so we're going to put this right sides together, matching up the edges, and we're going to sew that just as we did previously. Now make sure that you have all the right sides going, you know, the proper way if you have a directional print. The pattern calls for a double zip zipper. You don't have to use a double zip zipper. Sometimes it's really hard to find them. And so we sent a single zip. And if you're using a double zip, once you finish putting these two together, it calls for bringing both the zippers to the center. We won't be doing that. We're just going to make sure that the zipper pull is inside of this area when we get ready to cut everything off. So I'm going to go ahead and put these right sides together and sew my 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then top stitch just as I did with the bottom of it. I've sewed the top on. I have top stitched it, and then I've also sewn across each end, and I've trimmed off the excess zipper here. So you'll want to make sure that you have sewn across that, so if you accidentally pull the zipper that way, that you don't lose the zipper pull off the zipper. And so on this side, I'm going to cut this off, and you are always using a nylon zipper when you're doing this so that you can sew through it, cut through it, makes life a whole lot easier. So now my side zipper panel is complete, and I'm going to move on to the next step. So I've got this all finished sewn, and now I want to put the back panel piece on, and I actually took too big of a seam allowance putting my zipper on, so I had to trim a little bit of the bottom off, and once I did that, I just made sure that they were the same height. I re-sewed along the bottom of the pocket, and I'm ready to join these together. So what I'm going to do is put these right sides together and clip them and sew them together. And then I have some fabric that I'm going to use for the seam binding. So that is right here. So I'll take these and I'll take them to the iron and press them right sides together, and then I'll show you how to attach that to the strip. I've sewn my seam allowance here, and next I'm going to take this seam binding, fold it wrong sides together and press it, and I'm going to lay this matching up the raw edges, and I'm going to sew again about 1/4 inch seam allowance down the side of this. Okay, once I have it sewed on, what I did was I went over to the iron and pressed it really well. It's kind of bulky right there with the zipper and everything, so pressed it. I'm going to pin it. And then you can either hand stitch this down or you can sew it with your machine. I'm going to sew it with my machine, and then I'm going to trim off this excess here and right here. So I have my binding stitched down, and what I'm going to do now is match up the raw edges with the other side, and it will form a complete circle. So this is the side. Let me zoom out a little bit here so you can see this. So this is the actual side pieces of the bag. So I'll do the exact same thing to this side that I did to this side by putting the binding and everything on. We're now at step C, which is assembling the train case. What you want to do is find the center of the back and pin it top and bottom, and then you're going to fold this all the way across and find the center of the front and mark it with pins. Once you've done that, you'll then open it back up, line up your pins, and you're going to mark the center of the sides. So that way you can get everything distributed correctly when you're putting this top together. I've also marked the centers of the bottom of the bag and also the centers of the top of the bag. When we put these together, we want them to be right sides together, and you want the pocket, the opening of the pocket, facing the front of the zipper, side zipper piece. So we're going to take this and line up our marks and our pins and pin it together. And you can use Wonder Clips or pins, whichever you want to do. And so the first thing before you do anything else is you'll line up and pin together all of the centers that you have marked. Makes it pretty easy to get everything in the proper place. I like the fact that the Boswell does not go all the way to the seam, so it makes it a little bit less thick right there when you're pinning it all together and sewing it. I've sewn around the edge of the top of the bag, and so what I need to do now is to add binding to that to cover up the raw edges. So we cut the binding 2 1/4 inch and seamed it together, pressed it wrong sides together. And so we'll be doing the same thing that we did with the back of the bag. We're going to put the binding on, matching all the raw edges, pin it, go all the way around, and sew that down. Once we have the binding sewn on, I'm going to take it and press it over and then pin it or clip it. I don't know if you can see that or not. And then sew it down. You can either sew it by machine or by hand. It's up to you. So we're going to do that all the way around it. And then we're going to do the exact same thing for the bottom of the case. I sewed all my binding down. I did it by hand. I think it looks really nice. And this bag is turning out really, really cute. I love this fabric and I love the pattern. So that's the top. And then we have the sides. So I'm going to put the bottom on next, and I'm going to remark my centers of the back and the front and on the sides, and then I have my bottom is marked on each of those as well. So I'll get that all pinned together and finish up this bag. I've attached the bottom to the bag, and I have it wrong side out right now, and I give it a good press with my iron, and now I'm going to turn it over and put my binding on just like I did with the top. And once I do that, this is going to be a finished project. So I have the binding sewn on, and you notice that it's sewn onto the side that is the side piece. And then what I'm going to do is turn this in. Let me get this where you can see it. Press it and stitch it down just like on the top. So just a couple more steps and we're finished. I have my binding sewn on, and the last thing I need to do is slide the cardboard inside the sleeve. I had to trim the cardboard down a little bit to get it to fit because of the binding. This goes in there. And we're going to turn this right side out, like so. Zip it up. And I'll give it a good steam and press, but I think it turned out really, really cute. And then you'll also want to take the little zipper tie and thread it through the hole in the zipper pull and then tie it in a knot. So that is our project for this month. I hope you enjoyed making your all aboard train case. We love ours. I just think this is super, super adorable. I travel all the time, so I'm going to be filling mine up. So y'all have a great day. We hope that you will follow us on Instagram and Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube.